Hey guys, welcome back to the channel for what is going to be a video all about my top 5 favorite drugstore eyeshadow palettes. I don't know why in the world it has taken me this long to film this video. I think it just kind of dawned on me. I was thinking about all the relatively new palettes that have been coming out from the drugstore recently, and I thought, not only have I not done a refresher video, I haven't done a first video talking about my favorite eyeshadow palettes from the drugstore, so thought I would do that here for you today. You will definitely know some of these. They are oldies but goodies that have stood the test of time. There are also some new ones in here too, so let's go ahead and jump in. I think I'm going to start kind of smaller and simpler to begin with and then work my way up towards the bigger palette. So first one I want to talk about, you will probably know and love this one well, is from Maybelline. It is one of their Eye Studio quads. This one that I have right here is in Taupe Temptress. I do have more of a kind of greeny browny sort of quad that I chose not to show. I picked this one instead because I do have a lot of other palettes here that are that kind of browny green palette, very comfort zone-y, hint hint. But just know this particular line has a ton of different eyeshadow quads within it, so it's not just taupe and plum, but this is one of the more exciting ones that I have. They are so smooth, so pigmented. However, I will say that there are just a lot of shimmer overall in this collection. This palette in particular has no satin, no matte. It's completely shimmery, so if that's not your thing, you're probably going to want to avoid this palette. But just overall, of all, the traffic outside is insane. Just overall from this collection of all the quads that I've tried, they don't really do mattes. Satins touch and go. For the most part, you just get a lot of very beautiful shimmer, but shimmer in these palettes. So the next palette that I have adds one extra shade, but it also adds those kind of satiny textures to help even that out. This one is from Rimmel. I did a review of this probably over at least a year and a half ago at this point. It's their Glam Eyes HD 5-color eyeshadow palette, and mine is in the shade Brick Lane. You can see, obviously, 5 shades come inside, but rather than sticking to the shimmers, there are actually some satin shades in here, but they are so finely satin textured that I think they pass as mattes. In fact, I wear this kind of taupey, medium taupey camel shade in my crease whenever I wear this palette, and then the shade just above that is really a deep, cool chocolate brown that has that same sort of satin texture, basically verging on matte. Whereas on the other side, you have these gorgeous metallic, shimmery, this copper, this shimmery champagne that is actually also beautiful as a facial highlight as well, hot tip. And then this kind of beautiful shimmery chocolate brown over here in this upper corner. This is a beautiful everyday palette, and this collection too actually has quite a bit of shade options in it, or like shadow combinations. It's not just neutral, which is great for every day, but if you want to change it up, you can find other palettes with like hotter hues, kind of more fun color combos if that's what you're looking for. All right, the next pick adds a few more shadows to the mix and also brings a little bit of the newer palettes that have recently launched into the mix as well. This one is from Milani. Could not do this video, well, might not be able to do it at all since I can't get the palette open. Oh, good grief. So this is one of the new Milani palettes. This is the Bare Necessities Everyday Eyes eyeshadow collection. There are quite a few of these as well. This, once again, is a very play it safe sort of shadow collection, great for every day if this is what your comfort zone is. But they also have an amazing colorful palette. They have truly, I think there's one with beautiful orangey tones that is still more earthy, but then there's one with actual bright colors in it, which I've heard great reviews about. But basically the reason this is in here is because the quality of this palette in particular is stellar. The shadows are crazy pigmented, they're very smooth in texture, long lasting, and this palette also contains 2 matte shadows. So of the 6 shades in here, 2 are matte. You have one great for the crease. It's this kind of matte, almost similar to that in the Naked One palette. What is that? Is it Buck? The matte shade in there, very similar to that. And then this deep chocolatey brown over in the corner here as well is also matte. So once again, I hate that I keep showing all these neutral palettes because I do want to give you a variety, but frankly, when I pick stuff up from the drugstore, I want it to be stuff that I'm going to be able to use on a day-to-day basis, and this, as I'm sure is the case with a lot of people who watch, just happen to be the colors that I gravitate towards. So pick number 3. This next pick, actually the last 2 picks are from the same brand. It is Wet n Wild, so I'm going to do the trusty dusty palettes first. These are the Comfort Zone and Petal Pusher. This adds a little bit of color to the mix. I'll talk about Petal Pusher first, but basically these are like the original eyeshadow palettes of the drugstore. These are the must-haves. These are what I was talking about at the beginning of the video that have stood the test of time. They're still available, and for good reason, because the shadow quality is amazing and the shade range is so unique for the drugstore. You're not paying less to get really boring kind of generic looking shadows. There's some real interest in both of these palettes. So over here in Petal Pusher, you can see it's a palette entirely of purples, and they did not shortchange you with this. They're all beautifully performing purples. So you have some satin, you have some matte, you even have a little bit of a duochrome. I feel like this is one of the more underrated duochromes from the drugstore. Everyone loves the one in the Comfort Zone palette that I'm about to talk about, but this one over here, the eyelid shade, is like a plummy gold duochrome, and it's just like, it's so gorgeous. No one really ever talks about it. This is an amazing palette. And then of course there is Comfort Zone. It never gets old. I did a shop my stash tutorial using that. I'll link down below if you're interested, because it's one of those that you can always come back to. You have your column of beautiful brown shades, and then if you want to add a little hint of color, you can go over here to your greens. And this guy down here is like, when I first started doing YouTube videos, it was the shade to have, whether or not it was in this palette, because the great thing is this also duped MAC's Club, which is also kind of a dupe for MAC's Blue Brown Pigment, and now everyone and their brother has a dupe for this shade out now. But really all you need is this like $4 or $5 palette right here, and you get an entire other palette of shades to play with along with it. Absolute, like, these are just such amazing palettes in the drugstore. And the last palette from the drugstore, although I don't think they needed to one-up themselves, they did. Like I said, it's from Wet n Wild. This, I believe I talked about in a recent haul. It is the Studio Eyeshadow palette. That is it. It is just, coming in Latte. And as usual, it is a neutral palette, but it offers such a wide shade range. The reason I wanted to include this is because unlike any of these other palettes, you get 10 shades in this palette with an even mix of mattes, metallics, shimmers, and even this kind of brown over here has some gold sparkle in it. It's just like, this is so unique from the drugstore, and a great mix of undertones. You can see here you have kind of a bolder brassy shade and then some cooler taupe. So it's going to flatter so many different skin tones. It's going to give your skin tone a ton of versatility in the kind of shades that you can play with on a daily basis. So I couldn't not include this, even though I did double up on the brand. Wet n Wild is just hitting the nail on the head with the drugstore eyeshadows. I can't argue with that. So those are all of my picks. I would love to hear yours down below in the comments, because I know I left some out. There is no way that I could get all of them in just one video, especially where I only picked my top 5. So I would love to hear yours in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye guys.